To say a quick hello. My name is Maddie, Madison as well, whichever you prefer. But I'm the head of web design and branding here at the Forward Female. I'm so excited today to talk about my favorite topic, which is Squarespace. I've been using Squarespace for as long as I can remember. I believe my first attempt at it was my freshman year of college, and ever since it's just been an evolution from start to finish to today. So I'm really excited to kind of go into everything that I do to make my Squarespace websites as custom as possible and really elevate the vision for my clients. So as it says on the screen, we'll be talking about a custom Squarespace website that converts. So I think we can get started. If my computer will work. Perfect. Okay. So a few things that I want to talk about really quick is keep your mics off just until the end and your cameras on. I love to speak to your beautiful faces, but we will do a Q&A at the end. So if you do have a question that's on your mind, feel free to put it in the chat box. Gabby will keep track of those for me. But if not, you can always save it for the end and just ask me over Zoom. So yeah, and I also want to note that if you do have a question later on that you think about that you maybe didn't think about today, you can always shoot me an email. It's madison@forwardfemale.com, and I am just an email away all the time. So yeah. So let's get started. Really quickly, if you haven't already dropped in the chat your website link, if you have one, that would be amazing. I want to be able to share with everyone and kind of just look at each other's websites. Also, if you could drop your goals for this hour we have together. They don't need to be big or small, whatever you're feeling today. Yeah, so we can just get the conversation started. And Gabby, I can't see the chat. So if you're able to tell me anything that's going on, it won't let me click it for some reason today.
Gotcha. At the moment, we just have some introductions. So we have Rochelle, a brand image consultant and pro makeup artist based in LA.
Love it.
This is Tiffany. So happy to be here. I'm Tiffany from Detroit, Michigan. Welcome. Graphic designer and virtual assistant, also a mom of a 3-year-old and working in the healthcare field. Welcome. And then, of course, we have our lovely Ann Munson from Santa Fe. Business is Ann Munson Coaching, and she's getting her brand and website done by the lovely Maddie at the moment.
Yes,
so excited to have you all here. And don't forget to share all of your goals out of your time during the workshop.
Perfect. All right. So if I had to guess right off the top, maybe you're the person who's not sure how to use Squarespace as an asset and to really give it that custom feel. Or maybe you've heard a lot of tips on how to do so, but you don't know which ones to follow, or they may be a little overwhelming. Or maybe you just don't know how to adjust your style settings or those newsletter forms that really help boost your viewers' experience on your site. Maybe you're not sure how to convert those viewers to buyers, booking you, or subscribers. Or maybe you just realize, oh my gosh, Squarespace is a lot more than I thought going into it. Or maybe you haven't even touched it, but we're going to kind of cover as many bases as possible today. So I'm hoping by the end of today, you'll be feeling like Miss Kris Jenner on the right and not Miss Kris Jenner on the left. If you are feeling that way on the left right now, I assure you, I was feeling that way once myself, but we're going to move you to the right, I swear. But before we get into it, I just want to kind of give us a little more of an introduction. So the Forward Female was started back in 2019 by the lovely ladies to the right. Miss Lauren Cheek is on the call today. Priscilla is in a coaching call right now. And then NJ is also busy in a meeting as well. But all these 3 lovely ladies started this business back in 2019. And the goal was to help women start and grow businesses. And ever since, we've helped over 150 entrepreneurs globally. Mexico, Australia, France. So we're trying to reach the whole world and make a difference one woman at a time. We've hosted over hundreds of virtual and in-person events with different companies like Bumble and Microsoft, and our accountability Club is our membership, which we use an implementation approach with Monday and Friday meetings for only 30 minutes, just to start your day and kind of work with other women that are in your field or in other fields, but are just entrepreneurs and share the same kind of struggles and goals. And we share our wins and learning lessons. And you really get to kind of experience the evolution of being an entrepreneur with someone doing the exact same thing. So now I want to get to know you a little bit more. But before you start a website, there are 3 things you kind of want to talk about. So your goals, your target audience, and kind of what makes you unique, especially in your field. So first, your goals. So what is it that you want your website to accomplish for you? Do you want to get more visibility among your target audience? Do you want to convert viewers to your subscribers, clients, or buyers? Do you want to raise awareness for something? Maybe it's an event or an opportunity to donate or a new product that you're selling? Or do you want to give viewers more of an insight into who you are and what your brand represents? So these are all tons of things. And if they're all of them, that's great. If you already have one thing going and you want to kind of move into more of a raising awareness or gaining more visibility, all of these things we'll touch on. So then who is your target audience? So this is crucial before starting your website, knowing exactly the person you're trying to attract and basically get their attention. So what I always like to say is to get into the psyche of who that person is. If you have to give them a name, but knowing exactly who they are, where they're showing up, where they're buying their coffee, where they're going online after a long day of work, knowing exactly what they're doing, who they are, and how they like to spend their time is going to really make the website process a little bit more streamlined for you. You want to know what information that they would be seeking visiting your site. You want to know how to keep them on your site and how to keep them intrigued with your information and your content. And you also want to know what on your website will make them buy, subscribe, or book a call. So then the last thing being your uniqueness. So what sets you apart specifically from the other people within your kind of realm of entrepreneurship. So whether that's like another makeup artist or someone that is also in the wellness field, you want to kind of see what they're doing and what you're doing that sets you kind of apart from them. What value are you bringing to that target audience? So now I want you to drop in the chat either a number 1, a 2, or a 3. A number 1, if you've started editing a Squarespace website, but now you're feeling a little bit confused or lost. A 2, if you already kind of know the Squarespace basics, but you want to really elevate your site and make it stand out. Or a 3, if you've literally never touched Squarespace, but you're really needing that website up quickly. What numbers are we getting, Gab?
We got a 2. We've got lots of 3s, primarily 3s in the chat. Another 3. So a lot of people have just never touched Squarespace.
I love it. Good. We have a bunch of Squarespace newbies, my favorite. Okay, so let's get into it then. So here we go. Essentially, Squarespace is one of my favorite website platforms for a multitude of reasons. Yeah, Lilo's too, right, Lilo? Okay, sorry, that's my dog. So one reason being that it's super user-friendly, meaning you can learn it quickly, whether that's on YouTube or on this workshop today. It is a platform where you can design and develop. No. Sorry. You can design and develop at the same time, making your build out time a lot faster. You are easier management. You have easier management of your content, products. They actually just updated their inventory section for commerce. So it's a lot easier to kind of manage the products you're uploading, whether you want to sell them, which actually for Forward Female site, we actually just launched our shop as well. And so from firsthand experience, we're having a lot of an easier time managing all of our inventory within that as well. Another cool thing about Squarespace is kind of like an all-in-one platform. So you can in-house you can in-house host your domain. You can build and design your website. You have the opportunity to include email marketing within there. They have their own email marketing platform within that whole section in Squarespace. And you also can do booking. You can showcase your portfolio. So it really gives you the opportunity for the world is at your fingertips. It also has plenty of easy template designs that you can build off of. If you're feeling like, I don't really want to start from scratch, there's so many categorized by different businesses and also categorized by like what type of site you might need, whether it's a one-page landing page, a shop, or maybe you need a booking site. They're all categorized for you there. So you can kind of look structurally and aesthetically. And then the last thing is it is actually now more customizable than ever. Squarespace has recently updated to a 7.1 version, which beforehand 7.0, it was still customizable. And there is an old workshop that I kind of did a breakdown of that a while back, which you can find in our membership if you are a member in the portal. But now 7.1 is more customizable because it has this new thing called Fluid Engine, which essentially you can add blocks of whether it's text or images and place it anywhere you want in that section. You can layer things. So it really gives you the option to put things wherever you want rather than kind of having to play puzzle with the spacers and moving those images around, which you might have already encountered or you never have to now. So that is also an option. Lilo, no, ma'am. No, ma'am. So navigating Squarespace. So I want to go over this just a little bit. So especially because we have a lot of threes, people that have not really touched into Squarespace that much. So when you go into Squarespace and you start an account, you will have a dashboard and then you can enter and add a website. So let's say you select this template. I chose this one for an example to use for this workshop. But once you go into it, you'll have this kind of navigation on the side. Up here at pages is where you can go in, change your navigation, select what page you want to be editing, change the links. Design is where you'll change your favicon, which I'll kind of touch on a little bit later. But it's also where you can kind of edit any design styles. Commerce is where you'll edit your inventory and change all the content within your shop. Marketing is where you'll find the email marketing that I was talking about a little bit earlier, but it's also where you can upload a promotional pop-up to your site. So neat thing with Squarespace is if you are using their email marketing, you can use a pop-up within their site and download and design things within there, as well as those kind of promotional bars that you see at the top of sites where it says like sale ends in 5 hours or something like that. That's also a neat addition that you can add through the marketing section. You can also add the scheduling for booking. Analytics will show you kind of this traffic that's hitting your site, and then settings, etc. So then on the right here is this white block, which pops up when you want to add a page. So when you go into pages at the top right, there will be a plus sign and that will give you this kind of section. So I typically will add a blank page just because I like to start from fresh and kind of just give myself the creative space. But if you're new to Squarespace and new to designing, you would probably want to click on page layouts. If you don't want to click on page layouts, there's also the option to click on section layouts, which I'll show you in the next slide. But page layouts is this, if you have in your mind, okay, I know I want a header image, I want some text with an image to the right, you can find something that's similar to that and just kind of move things around accordingly. Another thing to note is in this collection section, that would be your blog, your shop, your portfolio. And those are all different options to really give your site SEO opportunities. So if you are looking to boost your SEO, I would always recommend a blog just because you're constantly updating content and Google really loves to see that the website that is on your domain is being updated constantly. And a quick and easy way to do that is a blog. For example, if I was in the wellness space, I would do maybe one recipe a month, my favorite recipe for my wellness tea or something like that. Lilo, I know. Stop. And then another thing to note is if you want a drop down, so let's say you have a few pages you want to add, but you don't want your navigation to be overwhelming, you can add a folder here, which will basically give you multiple pages to add underneath. And so then when the person hovers over that Like let's say shop is a drop down, but you want multiple shop pages. You could have shop merch, shop templates, shop products. So you have the option to give them multiple pages underneath one drop down. And then also, if you do use a booking service outside of Squarespace, for example, or you want to outlink somewhere else, but you still want it to appear in your navigation as if it was in your site, you would click a link. So with that, you would just click a link, title it whatever you want. So what if that's book an appointment, and then paste the link that you want the site to take it to. So now adding sections. So this is now with Squarespace 7.1. If you want to check out 7.0, we do have that, like I said, in the portal. If you are a member, you can access the free recording. But basically with 7.1, you have a lot more freedom, as I said, with the Fluid Engine, meaning you can place images and text wherever you want on the screen. Stop. Sorry. You can place images and text wherever you want on the screen, and that you would do by adding a block. So that could also be anywhere from a map. You can add a map if you want to put the exact location of your storefront, a video. If you are adding a video, I do want to note that I would recommend uploading as a link, and you can do that by YouTube or Vimeo. And you can add them as private links so that you can't just find it on YouTube or Vimeo, but you can add it then to your site, and that then saves you a ton of loading speed, which also helps with SEO. When you are adding a section, this is that section layout that I was mentioning a little bit earlier, where if you want to start with a blank page and go section by section of specific things you might want. So let's say you want to start with a header image and maybe a GIF right here. That is one option, and you can just take this and move things around. Let's say you want to move this image to the right, you could, and take the text to the left underneath. So you have a lot more freedom with this new update with Squarespace. I do also want to note a new thing that I found, I want to say like 2 weeks ago, is this little heart icon right here, which now if you design a section, you can save it in your section templates. So let's say you design one section for contact, and you want that section on every single page, but you don't want to have to design it on every single page. You can then save it and then add it on every single page that you're designing. So that will save you a lot of time as well. Really quickly to touch on this little box. This is kind of if you want to edit the style of the section, whether that's the colors, the font colors, the background. You can also duplicate the section using this double squares, or move the section up and down. Like let's say you put this at the top and you're like, actually, I kind of want that a few slides down. You can just use these arrows and push it down. So you don't have to redesign anything. So then going into that little square, it's where you can edit that format, the background and the colors. But this is just to kind of show you how the Fluid Engine works. It works with these little squares. So you can take the image like this forward female logo we've placed in the middle of the section. So that's why that blue line is there. But I could take this and move it wherever I wanted within these squares because of the Fluid Engine. You can also change this spacing above using the height right here. And so if you wanted to like fill the screen with all of the grid, you would click that as well. But this blue icon with the arrows and lines is what makes you have more of the grid or less of the grid. So like, let's say you want to make the section super long and just kind of have everything connected. You can just drag that down and move things around.
Maddie, we have a couple questions
Mm-hmm.
coming in. So one is, I was told you need to have a coding background to use Squarespace. So let's touch on that.
No, you do not. And that's why I love Squarespace, because coding, although it is helpful in the customization space, you really do not need that for Squarespace if you want this to be customizable. All of the things I've done in these last couple of slides would be without coding. And if you also look at Forward Female's website, I was going to save that for a few extra slides, but I'll tell you now. Our entire site was built on Squarespace. And you can see that the custom elements are there, but we didn't use coding. So if you want to take a look at that, I will show you a screenshot in a few slides, but you do not need coding to create a Squarespace website that you love. You may run into things like if you wanted to add a widget, for example, let's say you have a podcast, you can add audio files to your Squarespace website, but let's say you wanted an automated updated podcast always showing up with your new episode, you could create a podcast widget. And that's something you could create on something like Elfsight, which is one website that I've used in the past for some podcast clients. And then you'll design this widget in that platform and it'll give you one line of code. If you do have to implement that code, all you would need to do is add a section and click the block that says code. And then you would paste that code that they give you into the code HTML box. So that's the only coding that you would technically need to do in Squarespace.
Perfect. And then one more question. So is there a way to do a subscribe pop-up to get traffic to the site before it launches?
So I wouldn't do a pop-up. I would actually do a landing page. So if you wanted to create, just get your domain in there and create a landing page, a home page that is live. That could be the only page that's live and you can hide your header and footer. You do need coding to hide your header and footer, but that is a really easy thing to do. If you can also look that up on Google, like how do I hide my header and footer in Squarespace? And there are a lot of blogs that will provide that code as well. If you did need help, you could always reach out to the Forward Female. And I could always help you with that as well. But I would recommend a landing page where you would maybe add like a newsletter subscription on there and say website coming soon. But you wouldn't need a pop-up for that. You would just have that as a landing page. And that way you can already start getting traffic towards that domain and start build that kind of brand recognition with that domain as well.
Awesome. And those were the only questions.
Okay, so we'll keep going then. So site styles. So this is kind of where you add in your branding, the colors, the fonts, the logos. So you'll find that in the top right-hand corner of editing your Squarespace site with this paintbrush. So this paintbrush takes you to this directory of your branding. And a neat thing that you can do is if you wanted to change a specific font, and let's say you don't know which one it is, you can click into fonts and then hover over that specific text box and it'll bring this blue line. And once you click it, it'll tell you exactly which one it is so you can edit that specific one. I do want to note that what you edit is kind of universal. So if you change heading, so there's 4 headings and 3 paragraphs, I believe. So you change the sizing of each one. So if you change paragraph 1 on your homepage, it's going to change paragraph 1 on all pages. So just keep that in mind when you are editing. And then I do want to note on your color palette, something that I've noticed that some people tend to not do is they'll put their colors in random order. I highly suggest you put your lightest color in the top left-hand corner, and then go lightest to darkest, and the darkest be in your bottom right-hand corner. That is because in Squarespace, it already kind of thinks that that's what you're doing. So when it creates these themes for you, it'll put the lightest at the top and the darkest at the bottom. So it's already kind of taking those colors and making those sections for you. You can go in and customize them yourself, but this will probably save you a lot of time because it'll use the light and the dark properly. Okay. So another thing that's new in the Squarespace 7.1 is editing mobile is a lot more manageable and a lot more customizable. So back in 7.0, when you would change something in mobile, it would really change something in desktop. So you couldn't really customize stuff on mobile. Now with 7.1, mobile optimization is a lot easier and a lot cleaner. So when you change something on mobile, it won't change as much on desktop. The only thing that will change is, like, let's say you center align text on desktop, it will center align text on mobile and vice versa. So the only thing that will change is kind of like the placement of the text in the text box. So the commonest misconception that I've found is people tend to say Squarespace isn't customizable. And I realized that that is a common misconception. I even thought that when I first looked at it, because I was like, whoa, like I can't edit this, I can't change this. But the way to make it customizable is to kind of think outside the box. So having that knowledge of like the basics of Squarespace that we just went over is going to really help you, because now you just move into the customization part. So now we look at website worthy content, and that is the key to making your site elevated and really stand out among competitors. Having specific graphics, photos, videos really makes your website stand out to your visitors, especially if it defines the aesthetic that you've set with your brand recognition. So one thing I love to always talk about is having a photo shoot before you create your website. And I suggest this because having a consistent branded photo shoot will really keep that consistency going in your website. So you've already established the brand recognition maybe on socials, and then you also have that content to reuse there as well. And by the way, Lauren Cheek is an amazing photographer, and she's on this call if you need her in LA. But yeah, so I highly recommend setting up a brand photo shoot. So that way your about page, you're like in a very professional image. Even if it's you, like if you're a makeup artist doing someone's makeup, or your makeup laid out on a table, like these are key images to think of, that would really elevate the site. I do recommend also that all content that you include is high quality and high resolution. On Squarespace, it's recommended that nothing is below 1500 pixels. So if you're creating a background in Canva, which I'll talk about in a little bit, you want to make sure that the size is 1500 by something. You want to make sure that it's not lower than that, because then it will become a little bit pixelated, kind of blurry, and that will appear less elevated. And I also want to encourage you to use stock images. And there are two websites that I'll mention in the next slide that you can find free stock images just by searching a keyword. So if you look up wellness, you can find images of different forms of wellness, whether that be physical activity, nutrition, etc. And that really sets your site up to be beautiful, but also gives that filler content that you might need in different sections. So these are my favorite tools to use while designing on Squarespace. So Canva, I mentioned a little bit ago, but that is a great tool to use to create a frame around an image, or maybe a custom background with different images behind it. Unsplash and Pexels are incredible tools to use for those free stock images. So if you go to either of those websites, there's a search bar, and let's say you search up makeup artist, it'll give you different images that are in correlation with that keyword. And then Adobe Creative Cloud is a little bit harder to learn if you're not familiar with, but it is an alternative to Canva. I do recommend Canva though if you're new to design, because Canva is a very user-friendly platform. Okay, so as I mentioned, Forward Female's website is entirely made on Squarespace. So I wanted to point out a few elements that I used that I created maybe in Canva or Adobe, to kind of show you how I customize things thinking outside the box. So first I want to mention this work with us image. So this text, you can't do that in Squarespace. So what I did was I opened a Canva design, I created that image, and I left myself a little bit of space, and I put the text on the side, and then I downloaded it as a transparent PNG and just uploaded it to Squarespace. And now I have this custom element that kind of really stands out and makes people think, oh, this can't be Squarespace. So another example of that would be, this is a background where it says Forward Female Shop. So I uploaded this background, and now you can make images go the full length of the sections. So it's created this really sleek element that just like flows all together. You can also add scrollers, which you can see kind of through here. But I do recommend, if you're looking for inspiration, you can definitely look at our site. And we do have a bunch of client projects that we'd worked on that are also on our site, that are also on Squarespace as well. So your call to action. And so this is kind of touching on how we're getting your Squarespace to convert. So three main ones are buying, subscribing, or booking. So if you are a service-based business, you'll probably want to go for the book a call section or the book an appointment. If you are a shop, you want people to buy. If you are a blogger and you make money off of your blog, you want people to subscribe to your newsletter so they're staying up to date with all of that. So in your site, It just really depends on what your business offers. So you can have all three. You could have even more because there are other calls to action. These are just the big three. But no matter what, they should always be aligned with your brand's purpose. And you really want to be consistent with them. So by that, I mean, you want it on every single page. And if not on every single page, you want it multiple times on every single page. With clients, I always tell them we're constantly reminding the viewer of what we want them to do. So, hey, like, here is about me, but also book a call. Hey, here are my credentials, but also book a call. So you're constantly telling them what to do in a nice way, though. So here's some examples of some calls to actions that I've created on some client websites. So over here on the left, we have a check out my blog. So this below here is a summary, which you would add as a block. And you can select it as a summary of a shop page or a summary of a blog page. But here they can actually click directly into these blog posts, or you can just click and read the whole blog and this takes them to the full blog page. On the right is a wellness coach that I had worked with previously. And so her big thing is to book a call with her. So in the top right-hand corner, that book a call button is in her header on every single page. So no matter what page you go to, you're always going to see the book a call first. But also we included it in multiple sections throughout her website. So I just wanted to show you that one as like an example of some consistency options. You can never be too consistent. So now talking about the little things, and these little things are little elements that really bring your site to the level that you want it to be at. So the first thing I want to note is that favicon that I had mentioned a little bit back, where you would go on the left side where it said design. That's where you would add a favicon. So typically people use their logo, but if you have like an element, like let's say you have a leaf in your logo, you could put that leaf in the favicon as well. It's just a way to create that brand recognition in the tabs. As we all know, I'm sure, I know multiple people that I can think of in my head right now that have about 15 tabs open at all times. You want to make sure that your website tab is recognizable. So that Squarespace little black box that they always have up, that's not going to make your site stand out. What's going to make your site stand out is that logo that they already recognize from being on your site. And they're like, oh, I needed to go back and book that call. Oh, I meant to go add that thing to my cart. Another thing to add is different animations or parallax backgrounds. So parallax background is when you're scrolling and the image of that background kind of moves while you scroll. You can do that in animations in your style settings. You can also do that in the background settings, like when you're editing a section. But that creates a really dynamic, functional site that attracts your viewers and also really elevates it to that professional feel. And another thing I want to note is a dynamic footer. So you want to think of your footer as almost like a summary of your site, and it kind of like a redirect. So at the bottom, I always recommend having a navigation back into the rest of the site. By doing this, you want to, Squarespace, you can't add a bottom navigation. What you can do though is write in text. So you can type in home, about, and then you hyperlink those texts to the pages. So that's a little trick there. And then another thing to add in your footer is a newsletter sign up or a call to action, whether that's contact, book a call, shop products. But you want to think of it as that summary that really brings them back through your site. So once they get to the bottom, they're still back in the site. They're not leaving the page. So for some examples of footers right here. So the top one is for a woman that I worked with in the education system. So her biggest thing was having people sign up for her newsletter, which is in the center. So that was a big focus with that aura around it. Then she has the navigation on the left, her social Instagram on the right, and then all of her terms and her policies and LLC on the bottom. Then the one underneath is for that same wellness brand that I'd worked with. She wanted to really bring attention to her newsletter, but also offer a freebie to kind of get people to sign up, which I do recommend if you have like download this recipe or you'll get a free recipe if you sign up for this newsletter. So that's kind of what she offered. So in order to create this two-tone footer, you would just add a section to your footer and you can change the color. Or if you want it the same color, you totally can. But it just really gives you that opportunity to create different elements in the site. But same for her. She has the navigation in the footer, as well as a contact call to action, and then her socials as well. So it's that summary of the site, telling them what she wants them to do, and also giving them the option to go back through the site if they want more information. So, and last but not least, before you create your website, please, please, please revise. I can't tell you how many buttons you might miss, how many links you might forget to link, because when you're designing, you're thinking about the picture, the visuals. So when you're going through your site, review, and also send it to a friend, send it to a family member, have them look through, click all the links before you're telling the public about it. Before we launch a client website, I look through it about 3 times, and then our entire team looks through it. Each individual person clicks every link, looks at every page, reads every paragraph. So just make sure you're revising to make sure that your content is thorough, is complete. And that another thing I want to note really quick is if you are linking to an outside website, you can click in the settings of the button or link, and make sure that it doesn't take them away from your site. It'll open just a new tab. And you always want to do that so that they always have the option to go back to that tab, and they'll have the favicon to refer back to. So yeah, revise. So I know that was a lot of information. So I'm going to let you kind of look over this little summary while I take a quick sip of water, and then we'll move into kind of the Q&A and everything else. But I'm so glad you all made it through this all. I know it was a lot, but we did it.